Section 1. A Nation Divided, Setting the Stage. America, in its early years, was a land of contradictions. It was a place where dreams of freedom and prosperity were pursued, yet these dreams were built on the backs of those who were denied their own freedom. It promised freedom and opportunity, yet held millions in bondage. The very foundation of the nation was marred by the cruel reality of slavery. The institution of slavery, a dark stain on the nation's soul, cast a long shadow over the lives of African Americans. Their existence was marked by suffering and dehumanization. They were forcibly brought to these shores, stripped of their humanity, and subjected to unimaginable cruelty. Families were torn apart, and their identities were systematically erased. The southern states, with their vast cotton plantations, relied heavily on slave labor. The economy of the South was deeply intertwined with the exploitation of enslaved people. This economic dependence on human beings as property fueled the expansion of slavery. The buying and selling of human lives became a grotesque business, integral to the Southern way of life. White supremacy became entrenched in the fabric of society, justifying the brutal treatment of enslaved Africans. Racist ideologies were propagated to maintain the status quo and suppress any dissent. The North, while not directly involved in the slave trade, benefited from the economic system it supported. Northern industries thrived on the raw materials produced by Southern slave labor. The Industrial Revolution fueled a demand for Southern cotton, further entrenching the institution of slavery. The machinery of the North and the labor of the South were inextricably linked. This created deep divisions within the nation, setting the stage for a conflict that would test the very core of its being. The ideological and economic rift between the North and South grew wider, leading to an inevitable clash that would shape the future of the United States. Section 2. Stolen Lives, the Brutal Reality of the Slave Trade. The transatlantic slave trade was a horrific chapter in human history, spanning over 4 centuries and involving the forced migration of millions of Africans. Millions of Africans were ripped from their homes, families, and cultures, leaving behind everything they knew and loved. They were packed onto ships like cargo, enduring unimaginable conditions during the treacherous Middle Passage, a journey that could last several months. Disease, starvation, and despair were constant companions on these voyages. The cramped, unsanitary conditions led to outbreaks of illness, and many did not survive the journey. Those who survived the journey arrived in a foreign land, stripped of their dignity and freedom, facing an uncertain and brutal future. They were treated as chattel, bought and sold like commodities, their lives forever altered by the dehumanizing system of slavery. The trauma inflicted during the slave trade left deep scars on the souls of those who endured it, scars that would be passed down through generations. Their stories, though often untold, are a testament to the resilience of the human spirit in the face of unspeakable cruelty. The strength and perseverance of these individuals continue to inspire and remind us of the importance of remembering this dark chapter in history. Section 3. The Unseen Scars. Life on the Plantation. Life on the plantation was a relentless cycle of toil and degradation. Enslaved Africans were forced to work under the harshest conditions, with no respite or relief. Enslaved Africans worked from dawn till dusk, their bodies broken by the demands of their labor. The grueling work left them physically and emotionally drained, with little hope for a better future. They were denied basic human rights, treated as property, and subjected to the whims of their masters. Their lives were not their own, and they had no control over their destinies. The threat of violence was ever present. Physical punishment, including whippings, beatings, and worse, was used to maintain control and instill fear. The overseers wielded their power with cruelty, ensuring that the enslaved lived in constant terror. Families were torn apart, sold to different plantations, their bonds severed by the cruelty of the system. The pain of separation was a wound that never healed, leaving scars that lasted generations. Yet even amidst the horrors of slavery, enslaved Africans found ways to hold on to their humanity. They created communities, shared stories, and found moments of joy and laughter despite their suffering. They created families, nurtured their spirits, and resisted their oppression in both big and small ways. Acts of resistance, whether through subtle defiance or outright rebellion, were a testament to their enduring spirit and unbreakable will to survive. Section 4. Silent Tears, Unspoken Pain, Family Separation and Loss. The forced separation of families was perhaps the cruelest aspect of slavery. Mothers were torn from their children, husbands from their wives, their cries of anguish echoing across the plantations. The pain of these separations left deep scars, wounds that transcended generations. Children grew up without knowing the love and guidance of their parents. The bonds of kinship, so central to African culture, were brutally severed. The psychological toll of this trauma was immeasurable. Despite these atrocities, enslaved Africans found ways to maintain family connections. They held on to memories, whispered stories of loved ones, and clung to the hope of reunion. Section 5. Whispers of Defiance, Resistance and Rebellion. Resistance to slavery took many forms, from acts of individual defiance to organized rebellions. Every act, no matter how small, chipped away at the foundation of the institution. Enslaved Africans slowed down work, broke tools, and feigned illness. Some risked their lives to escape, seeking freedom in the North or in maroon communities formed by runaway slaves. These acts of courage challenged the notion of white supremacy and inspired others to fight for their freedom. Leaders like Harriet Tubman, Frederick Douglass, and Nat Turner emerged, their names synonymous with resistance. Their actions gave hope to the enslaved and fueled the abolitionist movement. Section 6. Finding Hope in Despair, the Power of Faith and Community. In the face of unimaginable hardship, enslaved Africans found solace in their faith and community. Religious gatherings, often held in secret, provided a space for spiritual nourishment and communal support. Music, song, and storytelling became powerful forms of expression, allowing them to share their pain, keep their traditions alive, and sustain their spirits. These cultural practices served as a source of strength and unity. Through their faith in their communities, enslaved Africans created a world of their own, a world where hope flickered even in the darkest of times. Section 7. The Underground Railroad, A Journey to Freedom. The Underground Railroad, a network of safe houses and courageous individuals, offered a glimmer of hope for escape. Conductors like Harriet Tubman risked their lives to guide enslaved Africans to freedom in the North. It was a perilous journey, fraught with danger at every turn. But for those seeking liberation, the risks were outweighed by the promise of freedom. The Underground Railroad stands as a testament to the power of human compassion and the unwavering pursuit of liberty. Section 8. Legacies of Slavery, Echoes in the Present. The legacy of slavery continues to cast a long shadow over American society. The systemic racism that fueled this institution persists in various forms, from economic inequality to mass incarceration. The trauma inflicted on generations of African Americans has had a lasting impact, shaping their experiences and opportunities. The fight for equality is far from over, as the descendants of slaves continue to grapple with the legacy of this dark chapter in American history. Section 9. Breaking the Chains of the Past. The fight for equality continues. The struggle for civil rights in the 20th century was a direct continuation of the fight for freedom that began during slavery. From the civil rights movement to the Black Lives Matter movement, African Americans have continued to demand justice and equality. The fight for equality is a reminder that the legacy of slavery is not confined to the past. It is an ongoing struggle that requires constant vigilance and a commitment to dismantling systemic racism in all its forms. Section 10. Learning from History, The Importance of Remembrance. Remembering the history of slavery is not about dwelling on the past, but about understanding its profound impact on the present. By confronting this dark chapter, we can learn from the mistakes of our ancestors and work towards a more just and equitable future. Educating ourselves and future generations about the horrors of slavery is crucial. We must acknowledge the resilience and humanity of those who endured this brutal system and honor their legacy by fighting for justice and equality for all. Section 11. Conclusion, Towards a More Just Future. The story of slavery in America is a painful reminder of the capacity for human cruelty, but it is also a testament to the enduring power of the human spirit, the unyielding desire for freedom, and the possibility of progress. By confronting this difficult history, acknowledging its lasting impact, and committing ourselves to the ongoing fight for equality, we can work towards a future where the chains of the past no longer bind us. The journey towards a more just and equitable society requires constant vigilance, unwavering commitment, and a willingness to learn from the mistakes of the past. Only then can we truly honor the legacy of those who fought so valiantly for their freedom.